Why be out there spinning your wheels when there's something out there that works?
What's shaking? Welcome back to All In. I'm Rick Jordan, your host. My guest today, Rebecca Zung. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm fantastic, actually, because we're going to talk about some fun stuff. You are a divorce attorney, yeah?
I am.
That's really exciting because this year divorces are up, right, with the pandemic, and it's just kind of crazy out there.
Yeah, I don't really practice that much anymore because I do all this stuff on YouTube and I have negotiation programs. And so lucky for me, I haven't had to deal with the barrage of cases coming in, but
the small uptick, right?
Yes, I've heard.
No doubt, but I'm over the course of your years, I'm sure that you have seen some stuff.
Oh yeah, everything. I tell people, nothing you can say shocks me. I've heard it all. There's no sexual thing, nothing. I've heard it all. Nothing surprises.
Nothing shocks you anymore. All right. Yeah. We're going to dive into some fun stuff here because I'm sure you've seen all these different types of divorces, and I know one of your areas of specialty is dealing with narcissists. And even now, that's pretty much what your YouTube channel's about too, right? Is how to negotiate with narcissists.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's kind of fun.
In any setting. So, I have a program called Slay Your Negotiation with the Narcissist, which mostly is for divorce, but I'm rolling out the one for business in March.
Nice. That's exciting because that happens. I mean, whether it's employees, whether it's clients or anything else, you
totally,
have.
Yeah.
Exactly. But of course, relationships are something that's always a big topic of concern with a lot of people and everybody that you talk with. But do you see that it's pretty much one-sided sometimes, or in your years, can it be that way to where one person kind of takes that lead role as the narcissist?
Usually it's one person who's the narcissist, and then the other person is usually more of what we call like an empathic person or the weaker person, just because the narcissist usually wants to attach themselves to a caring, kind person who they feel like they can get a lot of narcissistic supply from. Whereas, there are times that you've seen two narcissists though, and then it's like total fire.
Yeah.
All the time.
World War III. Yeah.
Yeah. Scorched earth litigation for sure.
But for everyone out there, because narcissist is used almost loosely a lot of times too. Mm-hmm. And what is your definition, or how do you view what a narcissist is?
Yeah, I love that question because most people think like, oh, if I say anything nice about myself, that, then I must be a narcissist. Or if anybody is like, in any way thinks highly of themselves and they have to be a narcissist. They can't just have like good self-esteem or whatever, right? So I think it's a really good question because really what it comes down to, because remember, there are covert narcissists too, who don't ever say anything good about themselves, right? But it's a person who has absolutely zero sense of self. They have no self-esteem whatsoever. So they attempt to derive all of their value from the external world, and like in the form of money or prestige or adulation or respect. But also the flip side of that is also through controlling, devaluing, treating people poorly, debasing them in some way, intimidating them. So all of that is how they get supply. So that's one half of it, which is no internal sense of self-value. The second half of that is a person who has no ability whatsoever to feel any sense of compassion, care, or empathy for the other person. So it's both. They're really quite the peach.
Yeah, they sure are, aren't they? We're going to have a lot of fun. Yes, there's some things you said in there as far as your definition of a narcissist, especially the control and devaluing part. Have you ever seen this? Because this is my own empirical observation. as well, is when it comes to, because you're talking to people that try to say something nice about themselves, and they feel like they shouldn't or something like that. Is that typically like that person that might be with a narcissist? Because I'm curious with in that arrangement, because the devaluing thing, and I'm even pulling from my own past in some scenarios, because I've been pastor in several churches as a number two, and some of the pastors that I've worked for have been this because there was jealousy involved, but one of their methods, their modus operandi, was devaluing who I was.
Or narcissists are very much attracted to the role of a pastor. You see a lot of clergy who are narcissists because they want to put themselves in these positions of being respected and looked up to and trusted and all of that sort of thing. A lot of times you see covert narcissists as clergy, frankly. And the covert narcissist is much better at shrouding their narcissism, to the rest of the world. They seem like the most kind, the most compassionate, the most generous people. They only save their devaluing for the people who are like right close to them, like, the number two pastor or whatever, because they're really very, narcissists are very, insecure people at their heart. I mean, they really live in this world of scarcity at its most extreme. Like, if I give you anything, then that means I can't have. If I make you look good in any way, then somehow I look bad.
Wow, is that maintaining status? I mean, I'm back. My mind's going back to relationships now too, because it's almost like one has to keep themselves above the other in that scenario too, right?
Very much so. Very much so.
Huh. That's incredible.
Yeah.
How do you? I've got a lot of thoughts going through my head right now, but when they're doing this devaluing and this control, and you're in like a relationship, when you're in a fight or something like that. How the hell do you negotiate with the narcissist?
So it really comes down to this. So, and let me just kind of answer this in like a phases and a little bit, because with narcissists, you're either for them or against them. I mean, there's all black and white for them. And so if you are no longer going to be for them, and they're no longer going to get that narcissistic supply from you, which is that anything that feeds their ego, then they feel like, I have to get you before you get me. I have to take you down. I want to make sure everybody thinks that you're the wrong one, I'm the right one. And so it becomes, all of their worst characteristics on steroids now. And so when you go to negotiate with them, you have to remember that in the world of narcissistic supply, which is, remember, anything that feeds their ego, subconsciously for a narcissist, there's different levels of supply for them. So there's what I call the diamond level supply. And the diamond level of supply is all that stuff that we talked about first, like how they look to the community, the respect, the adulation, their reputation, all that sort of thing means the most to them. And they'll protect that at the cost of anything. And so the coal level supply, which is what I call coal level supply, it's like it burns and it gives them energy, but it's not in the hierarchy of things. If they have to make a choice, they're going to choose the diamond level supply. So that the key to negotiating with them is to threaten the diamond level supply. Like, basically, I'm going to expose you in some way. I'm going to make you look bad to people that you respect in some way by letting them know what a liar you are, what a cheater you are, all your worst characteristics, unless you settle with me in a normal, reasonable person way for something that's fair. And so they have no choice but to do it. I call it ethically manipulating the manipulator.
I love that. That's pretty fantastic. So, of course, they value a narcissist, from what I'm hearing, they value the way that people see them. And that's almost the biggest driver for them. So if you threaten that in a way, or like you said, ethically manipulate the manipulator,
It's the
to where
only
it's
way.
a
It's the
listen,
only way.
if you don't do this, I'm going to go tell your story to everybody that I run across.
Well, or to the judge,
Yeah, for sure.
or
Yeah.
to, the other lawyers, or
Yep.
to the
Do you
mediator,
want
whoever.
this getting out? Remember, this is what you told me 2 weeks ago. This is what you did me. Remember when you raised your hand to me 2 months ago, whatever. Do you really want the judge knowing that? Do you really want this coming out in mediation? Is that what
Right.
you're saying?
Correct. Correct. And a lot of times, and that's what I call leverage, because SLAY actually stands for strategy, leverage, anticipate, and then focus on you and your case. And creating really strong leverage is the magic bullet. I mean, that's how you smack them down. And leverage isn't always necessarily a smoking gun like that. It isn't always, well, the person smacked me, or the person gave me herpes or something. I've seen that. um, oh,
Sidebar. When I was pitching TV producers a couple years ago, my media coach I had to follow this thing to the letter, and I had to say chlamydia on it's interesting.
With a straight face.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was laughing, because you said, I mean, who says this stuff on shows, right? Obviously you and I both do. That's funny. Anyways, let's continue. There we go. He gave me herpes.
No,
okay.
It's funny. It's very funny. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's like stuff that you collect, the data that you collect, the documentation that you collect, and you're able to see patterns emerge and things like that.
For sure. That's incredible. I love how you're positioning this too, because you're starting to reveal kind of the strategies and sort of pull back the curtain. Because is this a subconscious thing that narcissists, or is this a conscious thing that where they see what they can accomplish and then they continue with it because they now understand that they have this power or control?
To be honest with you, I mean, since I'm not a narcissist, from what I understand about it, I think it's more like, subconsciously, I think that they know that they don't have this feeling of value. And I'm not saying, by the way, that human beings don't have value. It's their own perception and feeling of themselves. Like they don't feel like they have value. Something happened in their childhood that caused them to believe that the world is a dangerous place, a scary place, a place where it's got to be me or you. And so it's going to have to be me, and so they just manipulate their way through life. And the funny thing about them is that they even lie about stuff that they don't need to lie about, or stuff that's like readily verifiable. It's just like such a way of being for them, because they just feel like they have to manipulate things, or they can't have it. And they're often their own worst enemy because of that. A lot of times, if they were just straight with people, things would actually work out a whole lot better for them.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, the best way to avoid something is to not even get into it in the first place, right? But, we don't want everybody to live in fear out there and just say, even a past relationship will affect me from getting into a new one. Because, I mean, what if you find the person that you like, that really is the one that lift you up? But how do you avoid being married to one or getting into a relationship, a partner in the first place? What are some like telltale signs, to say run?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest one for whether it's a business partnership or a romantic partnership, they're the same. And that is that they do something what they call love bombing, which, they come on super strong. They're the most perfect person for you. You just can't believe this person is real. They're just so amazing. Like, where have you been all my life? You're just incredible. Because they're really, really good at reading people. They're excellent at reading people. So they know how to look like the perfect person for you. They can kind of be a chameleon for that. So if it's a romantic situation, and you're a super busy professional, then, they're like picking up your dry cleaning, making you dinner, all this stuff. They're doing all these wonderful things for you to make your life so much easier. If it's a business relationship, they have all the best contacts. They can bring in money. They have the right skill set that complements yours. I mean, it's all, amazing. And then they fast track it. So they immediately want to be moving in with you, getting into partnership with you, and meeting your family, like it, and cementing the deal as fast as possible. So let's get married. Let's get this partnership going. Let's open a bank account together. Like the whole thing. And if it's happening so fast, and the person seems so perfect, but they seem to be in a really big hurry to get going with this, then it's probably a red flag.
Interesting. You had me thinking of a business partner I had a few years back, on everything. I mean, it was literally Friday night having the conversations like, I got to have an answer by Sunday. We got to dive into this, and here's why. And there was 18,000 reasons as to why. And all of them kind of made sense too. It was crazy because even with my background in intelligence and everything, I'm reading this I'm like, wow, okay, well, those actually kind of make logical sense.
Right. And then as soon as the person is ensconced, then it all kind of starts to go south almost right away. Like now all of a sudden you realize you're doing all the work. You're the one with all the ideas. There's like passive aggressive stuff happening. Like they said they were going to do something and they're not doing it. And you're kind of like, what's going on with that? Or money is not being deposited into the account like it's supposed to be, or, whatever the contacts were that they said they had, or suddenly there's some issue with, and then while all that's kind of starting to fall apart, they're also sort of devaluing you, like, oh, I saw, what you did there. Thanks for doing that. I just cleaned it up a little bit because you had a few mistakes in it, but I took care of it for you. Little like things like that. It just starts to feel like, it's not feeling good anymore. Like this is not feeling right anymore. But now you're already like in it, and you've already announced to the world you're in this relationship with this person, whether it's a business or a romantic situation. So, and then you start to think, well, they seem so perfect. I mean, maybe they're just having an off day. Maybe it's just, and so time continues to go on and you're still with this person. And now it gets harder and harder to get rid of them. So
that darn
I know, I've had to deal with it. Can you tell?
That damn narcissist. They're so hard to get rid of.
Yeah, just asking for a friend.
Yeah. That's great. So this area, I mean, whether it's a partner, romantic relationship, whatever, because it's sad because people get into the relationships and then you're right. They realize, at some point in time, whether it's through that person always was that way or, you two were both on the same page and maybe some person had no ambition, but now it's like your happiness becomes a threat to that person because you've decided to pursue stuff. I've seen that, in the past too. And then it's like all of a sudden that it's like that seemed to me like I've seen this, and you see this in relationships to where that covert narcissist can come out because all of a sudden you're pursuing your own happiness.
Which is like what they liked about you in the first place. They liked the fact that you were independent or that you were smart or that you had these great ideas or whatever it was. But then when you continue to be who you were, now it's a threat somehow. I mean, they're so messed up.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm with you on that. It's insane. I've seen a lot of stuff even when I was pastoring, as part of a church, just different relationships and seeing some of the weirdness that happens. It's like, well, what's wrong with this person going after what they want to? Isn't that great? Isn't there love and support in the relationship that's here? Or when it comes to business, what if someone else is taking the spotlight for a little while? Your partner or whatever, because they're the one that's advancing things at this point. And all of a sudden it's like, well, what about me?
A lot of times if they're a good narcissist, like good, especially the coverts.
I mean, good at being a narcissist.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
They'll couch it in some way. They won't couch it in, I'm threatened by the fact that this person is doing these things. It'll be like, they're treating me poorly, or they're not recognizing my accomplishments, or They're being verbally abusive when you just say things like, "What's wrong with me pursuing my own?" See, there you go, being verbally abusive, and that's like a gaslighting kind of a thing, because you're like, I wasn't being abusive, but did I say that in an abusive way? And you start like questioning your own self, right?
Yeah. That's incredible. But let's say you get into the situation. Now you're in it. You're in the
Yeah,
muck at
I
this point.
know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Danger. And you need to cut ties with a business partner, with the relationship, whatever it is. We started this route a little bit, the negotiation portion. And the best part, that's the ammo, that's the leverage. You said slay, right? Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, so SLAY is my methodology, and it's develop a super strong strategy, create invincible leverage, anticipate what they're going to do and be 2 steps ahead of them, and focus on you, your case, and your position. And I say that with the why because a lot of times when you're dealing with an abusive personality, you get so caught up in they're doing this and they're doing that, and they should be held accountable for this and they should be held accountable for that. And I always say, like, the best football teams, if they only have a good defense, that means no one's scoring any points. Right. I mean, somebody's got to be scoring points. So you really want to have a stronger offense. And so focusing on you, your case, your position is so, so critical.
That's awesome. How do you know? I mean, in that case, because you would have an attorney, whether it's a business partnership or with a marriage, with a divorce, and you are one. What's a position, or what would you tell somebody to look for? And it's so interesting too, because there's so many good parallels between a relationship partner and a business partner.
Oh,
and how you deal
it's the same, basically.
Yeah, for sure. So how would you start out, and what advice would you give somebody who's with a relationship partner, or even a business partner, whatever it is, who's saying, "Hey, I found out that I'm married to this thing." It's funny, I call it a thing.
The personality is definitely a thing.
There you
The
go.
human being, we can all have compassion, but I would say I have compassion for them over there.
Yeah,
They just
right
have to
on.
stay away from me. But
Yeah,
I send you compassion.
for sure. Right on. So, and
Yeah.
what would you say is the first step that you'd be like, "Hey, this is what," because the strategy is your S, right? And how do you start to develop that strategy? Because you were talking about the your case at the end of it. That it also, I love it, because I love how your acronym is even bookended like that, because you're starting with a strategy and that helps you build the leverage. So where do you start with that? How do you go into it and saying, "Okay, this is my strategy"?
Well, I mean, there's so many different parts of a strategy, but I would say the most important part is your mindset and feeling your own value and feeling strong enough to be able to stand up to them, and knowing that you can, and knowing that it's possible because millions of others have done it and done it successfully. And no matter how much more powerful the other side seems, or how bad it seems like for you, like if you don't have 2 nickels to rub together, or whatever it is that you perceive as your hurdle to winning or getting somewhere with this, someone else has already been there and they've done it. So I would just say, your mindset is so, so, so critical. And what I tell people is 80% of a negotiation is won before you walk into a room. And 50%, I say, is mindset. I actually just interviewed Bob Proctor on Friday, and he's like, it's 95%. I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you, because it may be 95%, honestly. I mean, that 95% of it is your mindset. I mean, it's so, so important to remember that you and you alone define your value. And people will think what you tell them to think, not just in a negotiation, but at anything in life. I mean, if you decide to set yourself up, I remember Will Smith saying one time, I was always an A-list actor. Y'all just didn't know it yet. And I mean,
Yep.
it's like in his mind, he was already that before it happened. It wasn't like, oh, it happened and then he decided he was an A-list actor. It always comes from inside first. And so you have to really believe, and I cannot stress that enough. I know people might go, oh, well, that's not helpful. I want you to tell me exactly how to like, get them or whatever. But this is it. I'm telling you, I mean, this is so, so, so critical.
Just going into it. So, I mean, part of winning is knowing that you're going to win, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course you have to do your research and you research both sides and you create your arguments and you do your risk assessment and there's 100 other things that I tell people, how to do, how to develop a rapport, what colors to wear, how to dress or what words to use and embedded commands and all of these things are really, really important too. But if you don't think that you can ever win, all that stuff is a bunch, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. What are one or two easy ways to disarm the narcissist before you even go into that negotiation? Because you're saying half the battle is won before you even sit down at the table, really. What's one or two things where you can go in and be like, this is just going to blow the wind out of his or her sails right away?
One of the things that I tell people to do is research what their arguments are going to be. And then when you go to present your arguments, after you do that, you say, and I'm expecting that you will be arguing this, or I assume that your position is this. And here's why that's wrong, or here's why that I can refute that, or whatever. So before they even have a chance to speak it, you've already spoken it for them and told them why it wasn't going to work for them, because that totally takes the wind out of their sails.
I love that. Thank you for the validation, because I did that with a business partner a few years ago. It was exactly that. When we split, there was an investment that we both put in, and it was a 50-50 investment, and the business, just because we both saw it going different ways. And this would probably be the same thing with a marriage or relationship, right? We both saw it going different ways. And I knew ahead of time that he was going to go back to, well, I put in this money, ahead of time. So, of course, we would have both taken a loss on this because it was just a bad partnership to begin with. But when I walked in with the final stuff and I'm like, and here's a check for the balance of everything that you put in. That way you lost $0 through this whole thing. Because I knew
So what are they going to say then?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, wow. Just speechless. That was the only thing. It was about 18 wows that came out of his mouth at that point. And it just completely disarmed. I mean, there was almost zero arguments at that point, because I knew that was going to be something that was contentious at the beginning, because there were little signs ahead of time of just, in the final months or so, to where those things were just kind of put out there. It's like, I put money into this and all this. I'm like, okay, I see where your value is. That's cool.
Yeah. No, I think that was brilliant. I mean, anytime you can do that and suck the wind out of their sails that way, I think it's perfect. I mean, another thing that you can do is start with areas that you might agree on, so that you start to have like some feeling of momentum or whatever, like, hey, look, we're getting somewhere here.
Yeah. Does that build up their ego a little bit? Because, that's what they value.
Well, you definitely have to build up their ego. And I sometimes I call it narcissistic fluffing or bartering, where you kind of like, oh, in a divorce situation, you might say, oh, can you help Johnny with his math homework? You're so much better at math than I am, something like that. And even though you might want to vomit afterwards or whatever, like,
yes.
It's like, yes, I am so much better.
That's fantastic. I love it. What are some of the methods of control? Because I know that's you mentioned that earlier, that's one of it, control and devaluing. And those are probably the two words that just really stuck out at me. What are some of the methods of that are employed by a narcissist?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many, but I mean, obviously devaluing you and things like that. But I mean, it could be anything from, in a relationship, I've seen situations where, guys like looked at the odometer to see what the mileage was to make sure the person didn't leave their house that day, or, tracking your phone or tracking your car, or not allowing you to see people or speak to people, or, just getting mad or having, being angry, especially during holidays or birthdays. They usually make a big stink at big special occasions because they can't stand that somebody else is getting attention. So, I mean, it's so many different things. I mean, it's anything that they could possibly think of. It's words, it's actions, it's inaction, ghosting you, like, you've been texting each other all through the whole love bomb phase for, all day long for 12 hours a day. And then when they don't text you and you haven't heard from them all day, you're like, oh, what's going on? How come I haven't heard from you all day? Oh, how come you're so controlling? How come, they accuse you of being controlling? I have to work, things like that. I mean, it's really
Interesting.
gaslighting.
Yeah.
Gaslighting is another one.
Are you saying that they will project their own qualities of a narcissist on you and blame you for being those things?
All the time.
Huh. Well,
Totally.
that's shitty.
Well, geez. They're not usually, the most charming of people. I mean, they are actually very charming in the beginning, and they have like this charismatic way about them in the beginning. But then as you get to know them better, not so much. But gaslighting is another huge one. We agreed to that. You said that was okay. You never had that conversation, things like that.
You're saying at the beginning it's like that, but how do you discern between what's real and them just being fake during that,
Yeah, I mean, just know, like, if they're like really fast tracking it right away, just be very careful about that. You might want to say, hey, let's slow this down, or sure, let's talk about marriage, but we don't have to do it yet. I mean, we can spend some time getting to know each other first, and, really take the time, because narcissists don't have a lot of patience. They don't want to put all that investment in without being able to start taking out the withdrawals here pretty quickly. So they're not going to want to hang around and be nice for that long.
Yeah, I'm tracking with you. That usually trails off pretty quickly in my experience too.
Yes.
You're talking like what, a month, 2 months, something like that?
Yeah, a month at the most. Because they're like depositing, and it's like so much energy, and they're only doing it because they want to be able to do the withdrawals eventually.
For sure. And then it's on to the next, because the patience I've seen in narcissists too. And I've seen it, like I said, even in the clergy or in relationships as I was counseling people, it's not a lot of patience on the other end of a narcissist. When you're receiving that narcissist behavior from a narcissist, that's a lot of words, a lot of narcissists to say at the same time. But it's not a lot of time, because the patience is just not there for somebody who is a narcissist. They can't stand it, because any amount of time that they have to continue putting into this something, they need the immediate return. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't want to have to keep doing that, because they don't want to have to do anything for anybody else. I mean, so they only do it if they think they're going to get something out of it.
Right on. It's expectation of return for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's oh wow. I'm having fun. Are you having fun? I hope you are.
I'm having fun.
Yeah. Let's bring it on.
And I'm liking your purple, by the way, because you know that's actually a good color for negotiating.
Is it really? Well, I like that.
It's a color of trust.
Huh. I know it's luxury and quality. Yeah. And that's fun.
And a lot of clergy wear purple.
Oh, that's right. Oh boy.
And it's the color of like auras and like spiritual things.
Yeah.
And so it's a good color. I've done research into the best colors to wear for negotiating. And purple is one of them.
Yeah, it's a calming color too.
Blue is another good one. Blue is a color of trust. Blues and greens, they're like colors of the planet and water and nature and things like that. So blues and greens are really good. That's why you see doctors wearing blue, and see, and green is like the color of money, and it's the color of anything like nature oriented, like organic foods, things like that.
Yeah.
So green is a good color.
What are colors to avoid when you're going into a negotiation with a narcissist?
Well, red is not like the best, just because it's like red is fire, red is emergency, red is blood, it's alarms, red light district, red means stop. So red is not the greatest color for that. Yellow, I've heard, is like, could be sort of perceived as weak. Black is not the greatest for a guy to wear, but for a woman, it's okay. That's at least the
Oh,
research that
interesting.
I've
Yeah.
read. Yeah. Um, so white is good. It seems like you're wearing white over here.
Ah,
Yeah, white is like the color of God and purity, and so it's just all these sort of um, subliminal messages that people get from talking to people.
yeah.
So
How do you give people hope who are in any kind of professional or personal relationship with a narcissist right now?
well, I mean, just letting them know that I've worked with thousands of clients and, I've now impacted. I mean, my YouTube channel went from 0 subscribers 10 months ago to now over 100,000. I have 6 million views on my channel
Oh, that's
in 10
awesome.
months. So I can just tell you that people wouldn't be like subscribing to me like crazy and buying my program. Sold over 1,000 of my slay programs if it didn't work. And so the stuff that I tell people works. There is something out there. You don't have to spend years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's just, time and money. That doesn't even start talking about the mental impact that it has on you, the emotional impact that it has on you when you're still having to deal with these people. So, all I can say is that it definitely does work. And, why be out there spinning your wheels when there's something out there that works?
Oh, I like that. Everyone needs to grab onto that. Why be out there spinning your wheels when there's something that works?
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. You just lifted me up today. Thank you very much. I like
Thank
that.
you. Well, you asked me to give you hope.
I know. I love hope. Hope is one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Yes. But when you're in this situation, where can a narcissist go for or receive help? Because I'm talking about let's pretend that they're human for a moment, and it's kind of a joke. Where can they go to receive help, and is it possible for a narcissist to kind of shift? And what's that qualification, maybe even too?
I had a psychiatrist on my show, Dr. Bandy Lee, and um, she's like Harvard trained and specializes in narcissism and all of that. And I asked her that question. And, she said that they can get help. I mean, but 99% of them don't. I mean, they're not going to admit that they need help. They're not going to go to a practitioner to be rehabilitated or anything. So I mean, for most people, I would just say if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it's probably instead of waiting it out and hoping they might change, you might want to just move on.
Wow, that's the straight truth today. Dang. By the way, I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of straight truths, but it's sometimes you just have to be honest with where you're at right now in order to understand where you need to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they probably just need to move on.
Yeah. Well, that could in it of itself be a message of hope, right? Because there's a lot of greater freedom ahead. I mean, I see these things as
Yeah.
some torture. I know even in most of my narcissistic relationships on the receiving end were in the religious realm, right?
Mm.
In churches, and
Mhm.
it hanging on so long when I was there just created more trauma for me.
So much so. I mean, and I had the same thing. I mean, with a couple of the relationships where I had to deal with narcissists and, and I kept thinking, well, if I'm kinder, it'll be better. If I'm more generous, it'll be better. If I can just show them that I'm there for them, it'll be
What
better.
else can I do
Um,
for them? How can I show
right.
them? Yeah. And then you start to
Yeah.
internalize, oh, it's me that's the problem. I've been there with all these people. Oh my goodness. Yes. It's me
Well,
that's the
yeah, not only internalizing that it might be me, but just also thinking I can help them. I can love them back to health, or I can show them that they can trust me, or whatever. But it doesn't work. It just gets worse and worse and worse. It just enables them, and it just shows them that you're a great source of supply.
Yeah. Is there any good match for a narcissist out there?
I don't know. I'm not going to say.
That was the best.
Yeah. Not me, that's for sure.
Yeah. Right on. That's awesome. Rebecca, this has been incredible for real. And, I've got like 18 more questions that I could ask you, but, what's going in this next year? I mean, what are you really focusing on this year because I love your channel. It's awesome just in 10 months that you've built up such an amazing viewership so far. And it's because I really feel like you're giving people hope, like saying the hope is actually the cutting ties, right? The hope is actually the moving on. And
totally.
That's really cool. And I think, uplifting people that way. But what do you see this year, for what you're doing? Where are you going with this and how you're going to continue helping people?
Yeah. So I have an updated Slave for Divorce that's coming out January 20th, getting ready to roll that out. Added so much more content to it. It's just so good. I'm so excited about it. And then March, I roll out Slay for Business. And hopefully this summer, I'll roll out the Slay certification program for lawyers and mediators and people like that, so that I can actually start to build a network around the world of people to refer people to.
That's really cool. You're giving people a lot of impact. And I love that because you're showing people that there is an option, there is a choice that they have, and the choice is not feeding into the narcissist. Oh, that was one of the things, right? Can we end with this, please? What are some ways that we can enable narcissists?
Yeah, we enable them by allowing them to get away with their behavior and not calling them out on it. And not, a lot of times people just want to go along to get along. And, what's that saying? It's something like you tell people how to treat you based on what you tolerate. Something like that. And, the more you just allow them to get away with it because you're trying to be the bigger person, or you're trying to not get them angry at you, or you don't want to make a scene, or you don't want to, it just enables them. You're just like feeding the beast all the time. So, just saying, listen, the way you just spoke to me was disrespectful, and I'm not accepting that. And so when you want to talk to me in a way that's respectful, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to be disrespectful back. You can just say it's not okay.
That's actually really amazing advice for after the divorce, isn't it? Because you still have to have, especially if there's kids involved, or, from a business partner perspective, sometimes there's employees that are involved that you might have split with or something like that. I had that happen to me, to where one stuck with me, instead of going with my partner. It's what happened. And still there was, the communication that had to happen after the fact, after the split, so especially kids, I can imagine, so I think that's just huge for after it, to just not enable the individual that you were with, because there's still going to be a narcissist after you split. And there's still things, especially with kids, that you're going to have to worry about. And that communication, especially if I would think from a joint custody perspective, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. And so, but I will say that if you are co-parenting with a narcissist, the less contact you can have, the better. If you can do the exchanges through school, and then have a co-parenting app where you have to use that to communicate with each other, the less opportunities that they have to make you miserable, the better.
Very cool. January 20th this month, the updated Slave for Divorce. Then in March,
yes, it's already out. It's available. I do have a free gift for your listeners.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Which is a free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet. It's a 15-page ebook. It's incredible. I've had thousands of people download it. They could just go to winmynegotiation.com and grab it.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah. Winmynegotiation.com. Rebecca, thank you for being on. You taught me a lot today. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
What's shaking? Thank you for joining me on the All In Podcast. Click the subscribe button and smash that bell for notifications. Text me. 312-535-8520. Follow me on social media at Mr. Rick Jordan. See you next episode. I am Rick Jordan, and I approve this message.